House Bill 137 would remove affidavit voting. Affidavit voting, as you know, is the means by which somebody can come to the polls and attest by filling out a slip that they are who they claim to be. And I think that's very loose. We require some form of identification for virtually everything else that we do in society, getting on an airplane, buying Sudafed. So I think it's only appropriate that we remove affidavit voting.
My name is Sam Sandmeyer. I live in Boise, and I appreciate the opportunity. The ability for a person to sign an affidavit under penalty of felony is the only backstop that someone has if they have issues at the polls, like they forgot their purse or don't have their identification with them. I have heard of people, and a student testified up here, that exactly happened to her. She left her purse at her grandma's house, which was several counties away, and didn't realize it until election day. It is illegal to fill out an affidavit fraudulently, and there's jail time, and there are huge fines. People are not going to do that just to vote. We should be encouraging people to vote, not suppressing their votes. Bill sponsors of bills that ban student IDs have brought up, hey, if they aren't able to use their student ID, no problem. They can just sign an affidavit. Same sponsor sponsors the affidavit ban. How does that make citizens and voters feel when something like that happens? I am very concerned about the lack of credibility that this body will feel if they continue to chop away at citizens' fundamental rights to vote. And this is, if this goes through, citizens don't have any answer if they have an issue at the polls. So I oppose this. I ask that you oppose it too. I stand for questions.
Thank you, Sam. Are there questions? Sam, I do have
Yeah.
Go ahead, Representative Andrus.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Sandmeyer, what happens if you go to get on a plane and you forget your ID?
Sandemeyer.
Yeah, the right to fly is not a fundamental right in our Constitution. So to compare them, I don't think is a fair comparison.
Ms. Sandemeyer, I do have a question for you. So the example you gave about the young lady and her purse was somewhere else, so she didn't have her ID. Isn't she driving illegally without having the driver's license in her possession?
She walked to the polls. She testified here in front of this committee. I know you can't remember everything. Her name was Lily Young, and she walked to the polls because it was right in her neighborhood, which is great. We've had such wonderful collaboration with the county clerk, here, former county clerk, who's now the Secretary of State, with encouraging people to vote, with making it possible for them to exercise this fundamental right to voting. And so it's really disheartening to see this that would completely end that. Another student, and she gave a speech at the Women's March a couple of years ago. She was from a divorced family. She went, and her ID had the different address from where she lived because she went back and forth between her parents. The poll worker told her she couldn't vote. And so she remembered that, oh, I can sign an affidavit to vote. So she said, hey, I would like to sign an affidavit. They didn't know what that was. They had no idea. She asked to see the election judge, I think it's called, who came out and did know what that was. So she was able to exercise her right to vote. We already put people through a lot and it's important. It's important that people are who they say they are. But we have safe and secure elections, and our Secretary of State has testified to that. I know not everyone believes that, but just believing something doesn't make it true.
So, Sam,
I see no reason to make it more difficult for people who have issues at the polls.
So let's use another example then. Buying a firearm. It's required that you have a driver's license. Should they be able to buy a firearm then if they forgot their driver's license, or just sign an affidavit?
Again, the right to buy a firearm and the right to vote are two different things. Not everyone
I think it's a
wants
constitutional
to.
right,
Not everyone wants to buy a firearm.
but it's a constitutional right, Second Amendment. Representative Gannon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Sandmeyer, as I recall, there were 1,500 voters in the last election that used this affidavit form. Do you remember, or maybe
I
the
don't.
committee, that was the figure I thought I heard. Do you have any recollection on
Sam?
that?
I do not recall. I'm sorry.
All right, no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Representative Alfieri, we'll give you a couple of minutes here to wrap up because there was negative testimony today.
Okay. Mr. Chairman and representatives, Representative Gannon, I think the number was 0.4% is the number who used the affidavit to vote last time around. And I will just reiterate that identification is a critical issue in our election process. We must be assured that the people that are voting are legally allowed to vote. And my final statement is that the Secretary of State is fully in support of this measure in removing the affidavit.
Thank you.